reeling from the extraordinarily difficult news that we heard from Connecticut last week, where this awful, awful incident took place, the shooting, where many children were killed in a brutal way. And we're all numb from this incident. Not only is it numbing, it's discouraging and depressing that we find ourselves in a world where such cruelty can exist, such destruction can take place in a most innocent environment like a schoolhouse. And we wonder to ourselves, what can we do? How can we save face and take on a positive way in the world in the light of such cruelty and destruction? I think if we look in this week's Parsha, we can take an insight from the lesson of Joseph and his brothers, Yosef and his brothers. Yosef and his brothers, as we recall from studying the Parshios in this section of the Torah, had tremendous tension. There was great tension in the house of Yaakov, of Jacob, where Yosef had this great tension with his brothers to the point that the brothers threw Joseph in a pit and eventually sold him as a slave. He was sold as a slave to Egypt, and where one thing led to another, he was released from his incarceration, from prison, and he eventually became the viceroy of Egypt when he was in a governing position, a position of authority. And one day, many, many years later, he faced his brothers, and they did not know it was him. And he says, Ani Yosef, I am Joseph. Ha'od Avichai, does my father still exist? Is my father still alive? And it says in the Torah, the brothers could not answer him. Lo yachlu. They could not answer him. Ki nivhalu mipanav. They were in shock. Why were they in shock? Why could they not answer him? It was that moment, that epiphany that they had at that moment when they realized all the cruelty and all the tension that they inflicted upon their younger brother had come to this moment when they realized that he is Joseph and he is the leader in Egypt, and they realized what the consequences of their action were, how they were able to go ahead and sell their brother as a slave. It started from one thing. It started from not being respectful to one another, not showing love for a fellow brother. And because of that, one thing led to another. They eventually sold the brother as a slave, and many years later, they were faced and confronted with the fact that I am Joseph and I am the leader, and they could not even answer when they realized the consequences of their actions. We are in a position to go ahead and shower people with love, affection, and happiness. We have an opportunity all the time. We have a choice. We can go ahead and offer someone encouragement, and thereby we can build the world one person at a time. By extending a helping hand to someone else, we build families, friends, and indeed the world like that. Folks, let us take a hard look at this week's Parsha. Let us realize its devastating consequences from destructive relationships, and realize what we can do to go ahead and strengthen people, bring happiness to others, and thereby building the world one person at a time. Have a wonderful Shabbos.